welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Open Trial Podcast. Thank you for tuning in to our second episode of our NBA preview. Last team we did on Team 30 was the OKC Thunder. So hopefully we didn't break any OKC Thunder fans by putting y'all last in the NBA. It's all love.
Do you know any Oklahoma City Thunder fans?
I actually do. I have a fraternity brother. His name is Aaron, and I met him once I crossed, and he's actually an OKC Thunder fan. I was making fun of him when SGA came out and said he wanted to be the Black Steve Nash. I was making fun about that. So yeah, that he's the only guy I actually know that I knew some that were OKC fans, but they were more Westbrook fans, OKC fans. So once Westbrook left, they weren't there anymore. But he's like been a OKC fan. So shout out to Aaron, man, my
Okay.
favorite brother.
Hey, I don't know you, Aaron, but shout out because living close to Oklahoma, I know zero Oklahoma City fans.
Yeah, man. I've been to Oklahoma City one time. I went there for a conference in like 2018, I think, and it was boring as hell. Not trying to say anything bad about y'all city. It probably was the time I went, but the time I went, it was boring. It was like one of the biggest cities that was so boring. I never been to a city so big that was so boring. So
But that's probably why their fan base for basketball is so good. Like they have actual like super
oh
loyal fans over
yeah,
there.
they fans are legit. That's a real home court advantage when you playing home playoff game in
Yeah,
your building, real
sure.
home court. So yeah, man. Okay, see, shout out to y'all. We got y'all 30. We're gonna move to the next team, and this is gonna be an Eastern Conference team, y'all. So I'm gonna have to hand the mic over to my man Faye so he can break down this team and let y'all know who's gonna be their next team. So Faye, it's your time to shine, man. It's all you.
At number 29, after Matt and I discussed who we feel like should be here, there was a couple teams that we figured could be here, but after breaking the rosters down, we feel like the 29th worst team in the NBA is Orlando Magic. Before I even continue, do you know any Orlando Magic fans?
I do not.
I actually do know one Orlando Magic fan. He
I
was
do.
a fan of them when Dwight and Marcin Gortat were there.
Mm, that was the year they
Yeah,
moved to the finals around that time.
yeah, they were actually good at the time. Rashard Lewis.
That's when I thought
Um,
that was a official starting. I thought he could be a starting center somewhere.
yeah, I mean he was at the Suns. He was solid when he played for the Suns.
He was a better backup than starter, but yeah,
I agree.
he was a quality starting center.
Yeah, a little Magic nostalgia. The Orlando Magic have a history of having good teams that make the finals that never win a championship.
They have a history of having damn good talent and lose it every time.
Yeah, that too. I feel like, hey, look, to any Orlando Magic fans listening, I don't want to say too much bad, but I just feel like what people play in Orlando, they have great times. Like they play really good basketball, but they never win there. And they go up to play for the Lakers and win.
Yeah, yeah, crazy. But what?
So
Oh, go ahead.
no, I was gonna continue. Matt and I got them at 29. There are some last season their record was 21-51, not the brightest, but it got them at the position to draft fifth overall. So Matt and I had a discussion about who we think will end up being their rookie they drafted, and we were both pretty confident that by the time they drafted, it would be Scotty Barnes. And we were both wrong because he got drafted before that, and they got lucky. And in many of top analysts' eyes, they got a top four player in the draft with Jalen Suggs. How do you feel about that pick? It was the obvious pick, but how do you feel about it?
Um, I like Jalen, so I was big on Jalen in college. What opened my eyes to Jalen was when he hit that game when the shot and jumped on the table like D Wade, and I was just like, whoa! It was like because it was like I love that confidence. So
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I'm big on, and I'm gonna be finished, is certain intangibles you just can't teach. Certain
Right.
leadership qualities you just can't teach. Certain believe in me, I'm gonna take us to the promised land. You just cannot. It's not something you can just give to somebody. It's something somebody has to have. And certain qualities, as far as uh being a leader and stuff like that, you just can't teach somebody. And I feel like Jaden
Oh,
has
sure.
all that, and I feel like he has that to make you believe in yourself more than believe in yourself more than you do, and he can bring that out of you, and that can go in any field in my opinion. And I know this is just I'm just giving light. In my opinion, the best leaders are leaders that can bring the best out of you, and they can bring the
Yeah,
best
for
out of
sure.
you in multiple ways. So some people think being a leader is just a one fine tooth way of it's just like this, but it's multiple ways you can bring the best out of people. And being a leader is finding out the best way to bring that out. If you got to be stern on them, if you got to yell them, if you got to curl them, if you got to be nice to them, like whatever that way is. And I feel like Jalen has that quality, and he's just gonna get better. So I like the pick. I as well, which you thought he was gonna go to Toronto, but Toronto decided to go with Scotty, and now he ended up they got him at number 5, and I feel like he can be that point guard of the future, and I feel like they giving him the keys to the franchise to move forward.
For sure. To touch on my leadership quality, there's two types of leadership, and I'll just since we're in a basketball world right now, there's a Kobe leadership where he's going to push you and beat you, and make you angry to the point where you just become better, which Dwight Howard was not good at accepting. Or there's LeBron leadership, which means that we're gonna do this together. We're gonna get out there and we're gonna work as a team and we're gonna make this work, right? And there's two complete different types of leadership, but they're both equally as effective in their own way. You know that if you were gonna play with Kobe Bryant, even Michael Jordan, that it was gonna be tough. They're gonna hit you. They're gonna make you feel bad. They're gonna bring you down. They're gonna be super, super, super hard on you. But if they were that hard on you, they saw a potential in you. They knew you could be something. LeBron's more the like, what we're gonna do is together. I'm gonna show you guys how to do it. I'm a good leader because I can bring all of us together to a collective unit and go forward. So, yeah, I think Jalen Suggs is already the best at talking to the media out of anyone in the draft class already, and he is super confident. Like if you hear him talk, um, when he after he got drafted to Orlando, he had a post draft interview, and it was by far the most engaging, level headed interview out of any of the other top picks that were drafted, and even going forward. So I think he's already had the notch on that. But it was an interesting pick because while he was the absolute best player available and the absolute right choice, that team is already pretty guard heavy. So it's interesting to see how Orlando's going to actually make it work. They already drafted Cole Anthony last year. They already had Markelle Fultz as what many people, including Matt and I, thought would be their starting point guard going forward because he was actually changing his game around and he was really working hard to show why he was deserving of a lottery pick, actually number 1 pick. So it's a weird situation. How do you feel about their logjam in the backcourt, even with RJ Hampton being there, Terrence Ross still being there, Cole Anthony, Gary Harris is still there. So how do you feel about that big logjam in the backcourt and
So
adding a dynamic player?
in my opinion, they added. So in my opinion, it's like this. It's kind of like I feel like they drafted him to be the franchise player. They want
Yes.
him to be that guy. So I feel like they're gonna do everything possible to make him that guy. They can't force him to be if he's not it. So for example, Trey Burke, Utah Jazz drafted him to be that guy for them. They wanted him to be that guy. They gave them the keys to the franchise the moment he got drafted. The moment he stepped off the stage with the commissioner, they was just like the Utah Jazz are now your franchise. He couldn't live up to that hype. But then you got players like Donovan Mitchell. As soon as he got drafted, they were just like, we want you to be the guy. And he stepped right into that role and became that guy. You got other players like Ja Morant. We want you to be that guy. He stepped right into the role and he became that guy. So I feel like they want Jalen to be that guy, but if he's not suited for that position, he just be another guy for that franchise. Cause like you said, they already guard heavy and they got players like Cole Anthony that has a lot of confidence in himself. They played really well last year. And they got Markelle Fultz that's going to be coming off an injury this next season. He's out to look for something to prove. He already has a contract, but he's still out to look for something to prove. But he was the first overall pick, and he wanted to prove that he's not a bust. So he want to prove that that time out in Philadelphia was just a fluke, and he can really be somebody.
Right.
And you got players like RJ Hampton that came over from Denver. That's still a rising potential starter player. And you got vets. I mean, it's weird to say, but Terrence Ross, he's a vet on that team at this point.
Yeah. And isn't that weird to say? Terrence Ross is a vet now. Like where
Exactly.
did time?
This time moves fast. Time waits for no one. So, and you got players like Michael Carter Williams, who's also considered a vet on that team. So
Yep.
it's going to be tough for him to get in there. But I feel like if he gets in there and prove himself to be that guy for that team, I feel like the organization wants him to be that guy for that team. Then I feel like they're going to do everything they can to move him in that way. But they're not going to sabotage other players in order to get it. He has to get it himself. He has to earn it himself. He has to put in that work to get it himself. And if he goes ahead and improve to be that, then I feel like the Atlanta Magic is going to be a good hands moving forward with Jalen Suggs.
Yeah, I would agree. They're gonna have some questions to make, but actually that actually kind of leads to my next point. I didn't touch on their second draft pick yet, which I will get to shortly, but they actually have a new coach in Jamal Mosley who came over from Dallas Mavericks, and they lost Steve Clifford, who coached them to the playoffs in years past, a bottom of the playoffs team, but he coached them to the playoffs nonetheless. And they decided to go a different direction, mutually parted ways, and decided to sign Jamal Mosley, who gets insanely high praise from Luka Doncic, one of the best players in the modern NBA. So I think that's a really good pickup. So Coach Jamal Moses is going to have pretty tough task to balance out all his backcourt play, and probably going to run some small ball since they have so many talented players in the backcourt. But that leads to my next point I was trying to get to. With the second pick that Orlando had, also in the top 10, was Franz Wagner out of Michigan, whose older brother plays in the NBA currently, who's Mo Wagner, and is also on the Orlando Magic team. That's an interesting pick. I don't think it was the wrong pick, but it was an interesting pick because I guess the question would be, will Franz be the player that they need him to be? No, they already have Jonathan Isaac. Like they have that player, and maybe they can play together. I mean, Jonathan Isaac is a very versatile player, great defender. Franz can space the floor, really good. But that's a tougher pick because there's a lot of talent in this draft, and when you're drafted top 10 in this really, really, really deep stack draft, there's expectation now. So will he be able to live to the expectation off the rip is the question. What do you think? Do you like that pick?
I like the pick. I like the pick. I just like you said, it's tough um, with the players they have, like Jonathan Isaac, because he's coming off an injury too. He got hurt in the bubble last year,
Mm-hmm.
so he should be coming back to start the season. I mean, I would think so. Like, would you think he'd be back? I mean, he set out this whole last season, correct?
Yeah, I think he got hurt in September of 2020. He got hurt, I believe.
So I feel like he
So,
should be back, and I feel like he can fit in with them. Their big man, I like the pick though. I'm gonna say I like the pick. They need this small forward position. I think they're ready to move on from Terrence Ross, in my opinion. It
yes,
was
sir.
a good experiment while it lasted, but I think they're ready to move on. If it's via trade or buyout, I'm pretty sure they want to trade him though to get something for him. So I think they're ready to move on, and they want that pick to step in and be that guy for them. Their big man on their team, Wendell Carter and Mobama, those guys. It's time for those guys to step up. So we're gonna see.
Yeah.
But I like the pick, and I think it's just a ploy for them to go ahead and see if they can start moving on from Terrence Ross. I kind of seen something as far as he was in trade rumors early on in the
Yeah.
summer.
Big
Yeah.
contenders are kind of looking at him now because he's been in the league for a while. He can shoot the ball. He's still athletic. He's still a good player. He can be a good player off the bench for a contending team to kind of help them. Someone like Milwaukee could use a player like him, come off the bench and put the ball in the hoop and stuff like that to give Chris Middleton a break after a while and stuff. He could be a good player on some contending teams. Uh, Notable losses: they actually lost Dwayne Bacon, Otto Porter, which is probably the biggest on this list, and James Ennis. And out of those three players, there's only one that's currently still a free agent and is rumored to be getting looked at by several championship contending teams. That's James Ennis. Otto Porter, I thought he was gonna end up in a Lakers uniform, but he ended up choosing to go to the Warriors, which is actually a great place for him. And Dwayne Bacon, I believe, is with the Knicks right now.
Mhm.
He signed a camp deal for them. So their team is interesting because Matt kind of touched on, they had some bigs that are one big that's a question mark, and that being Mo Bamba, as he was drafted in the top 5 a few years ago, and he hasn't amounted to what his draft position says. But it's tough because they did have a starting center in Vujic before, and they actually got another starting center in return in Wendell Carter Jr. So how do you feel about that? Do you think Mo Bamba makes the leap this year, or where do you think he finds
Man,
his footing?
I hope so. I'm actually a Mo Bamba fan. I like Mo when he played in Texas when he got drafted. He had a lot of like personality, and I like that. So when he came out, he had a lot of personality, and they had that song Mo Bamba. So it was just like
Yeah, I know. It made Yeah, that's crazy.
That's what I said. So it was just like he had a lot around his name. So I really wanted him to do well. But I feel like he got drafted into a situation that he wasn't really set for to succeed in. Cause they already had their franchise player and what was the
Yeah.
big man they had? When Mo got there.
Nikolai Vujacic or
Yeah,
Vujacic, one of
and
them.
he got traded to Chicago last season, mid-season.
Right.
So, but when Mo got there, he was already there, and he was an all-star center. So, and they just paid him. So it was just like Mo really had no place to really fit in. I feel like he really had no place to really find his footing with the organization. Now that they traded they superstar big man away to Chicago, Mo can step in, but. On the way back from Chicago, they got Wendell Carter Jr. So
Right.
him and Mo do a lot of the same things, and Wendell kind of showed more promise early on in his career than Mo had. So it's like now he's fighting with Win. And the one thing I can say that him and Wendell are closer as far as talent than the other big men they traded to Chicago
Yeah,
because
for sure.
Wendell's not really no superstar, no all-star, no guaranteed starter. So he can really bang with him and fight for him for some minutes and see how it goes. So I'm hoping Mo steps in and Wendell. I like Wendell too though. Like the fit he wore to his
I do
draft,
too.
the outfit he went to his draft was fire with the
Yeah.
like. Come on, man! It was crazy. It was crazy. So I like him.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see. Neither one of them are like stretch fours. So I think at that 5 spot, it's the only spot they can go unless both of them are working on their handles and working on their shooting in the offseason. Hopefully they have, man. But we never know. But they never really had that game to really play a stretch four spot. So we're gonna see what
Right.
they do. But it's really gonna be out of those two. And they got other big men there, but I think it's really out of those two, and we're gonna see who comes out on top and gets that starting job and puts in work. And it may be a battle throughout the season. It may be a battle that won't be decided after training camp. It won't be decided after week one, month one. This may be a battle that go all the way into All-Star break before we really know who's that guy for them. So it's really just a tryout for the whole season for Mo and Wendell to see which way they go.
Yeah, I agree. I think they also signed Robin Lopez to a 1-year contract, which doesn't make sense since they're already center heavy with those two young players. But I think a good approach from the outside looking in for this would be kind of how DeAndre Jordan and Jarrett Allen were splitting minutes. There would be some games that DeAndre would play significantly more. There'd be some games where Jarrett Allen plays significantly more. And I think that could really give a good idea of who is sustainable. One thing though is Wendell is very injury prone early in his career. He is hurt often and for long periods of time. So if he's hurt, that allows Mo Bamba more time on the floor, and that could be very good for his career if he can really show that he is a good player and he deserves to be here. Because maybe he just needs to change the scenery. Maybe a team that needs a center, like maybe a Los Angeles Clippers, where he can probably be a center over there, or maybe Oklahoma City Thunder, where they have Derek Favors as their big man right now, so they traded Moses Brown away, as we just talked about in our previous episode. And if you haven't, check it out, please. Um, yeah, maybe someplace like that. But there's a lot of question marks with this team going forward. We don't think they're going to be a good team by any means. They should be looking to draft pretty high, top 3 in the upcoming 2022 NBA draft. And let's see. So that leads us to our last part of this episode, and that is my hot take question for Matt. Matt, do you feel like Jamal Mosley is the coach that can help Orlando? And maybe not now because they're still far away, but be a sustainable coach for a long time and help them reach some level of prominence in the future. Do you think Jamal Mosley is that guy, or as we've seen in the past from many, many, many teams, he is just a coach to help them guide them through the rebuild, and they will upgrade their coach when they actually have a team that can compete? Like we saw it with Mark Jackson.
Yeah.
We saw it with Jason Kidd. We saw it with Kenny Atkinson.
Dang, it seemed like it happened to all the black coaches.
And we see it happens. It happens. It's
but
thing that happens.
I think he can be that sustaining coach for them to lead them out the rebuild and into a playoff contention team. Like you said, Luka's hiring him. That doesn't give him a stamp of approval, but it's good to know that your superstar player, the team that you left, is on your side when it comes to things like that. So I think he could be that coach to lead them through the rebuild. And for them, it's gonna be. I ain't gonna say it's gonna be a long rebuild because once you get that guy, your franchise can change around quick. So I
Oh
feel
yeah,
like if they were able to get that top 3 pick in this upcoming draft, and they were able to make that right pick and get that guy, they was fortunate enough for Jalen to fall to them at 5. So hopefully they get more fortune in this upcoming draft, and they're able to get another top flight player. And once they get Jalen and team him up with another wing, two-way wing on in the draft or big man, I feel like they can get right back in the Eastern Conference because the Eastern Conference is not deep. Like it's top heavy, but it's not like deep towards like the 6 to 10 spot. It's not like crazy deep. So they can definitely get in there and make something happen. And I feel like Jamal will be that coach to lead them to that way, lead them to the promised land.
I can agree. I think Jamal's sustainable as of right now. I think to your top heavy question, by the time Orlando is possibly ready to start competing for playoff spots, some of those top heavy teams are actually a little bit older. So maybe they won't be as effective. Maybe like in 3 years, Brooklyn won't be the same Brooklyn as they'll have aging Kyrie. Well, Kyrie's not old, but aging Durant and aging Harden. And Miami, they have aging Kyle Lowry, aging Jimmy Butler. They still have some young guys there, but their best players are a little bit older. So let's see going forward what happens. And we'll see in time.
All right, y'all. Well, that's team number 29. Team number 29. We're moving on up the chart, man. So that's team number 29. Next team, of course, is going to be 28. I'm good at math. So the next team is going to be 28. And this team, what can I say? This team, I'll tell you this, it's another Eastern Conference team. That's all I'm gonna tell you. It's another Eastern Conference team. So make sure y'all stay locked in. Thank y'all for listening to this episode. Stay locked in for the next one. It's like I said, we're doing every single team in the NBA, and appreciate y'all for listening. Stay tuned for the next team, number 28, and I'm gonna let you know now. Like I said, it's the Eastern Conference team. Who could it be? Thank y'all for listening, man. See y'all next time.